talking of the public there, how do you expect the public to react to this decision?
I hope the public will recognise the sincerity of the reason why this decision has been taken. It's, as I say, it's not been an easy one, and I very much regret seeing Mr. Karran leave the Council of Ministers. But I hope people will realise that if government is to function effectively, we have to have clear rules and guidelines for the Council of Ministers in particular to be able to operate. And we also, as I've said, have to have continuity across the piece, that we can't have one rule for backbenchers and one rule for ministers in terms of collective responsibility. I suspect there has been a view outside questioning how long the Liberal Vannans will stay in government, whether they would at some point decide that they would prefer to be a party of opposition rather than making a constructive commitment to government. So in some respects, I think there won't be a complete surprise. But, you know, I make this announcement, as I say, with some disappointment, but I have to live in the real world of politics. Mr. Karran's made his choice. I have to move on. Government has to move on. We have some very difficult challenges ahead, and I have to ensure now that we can put a team together which will provide the island with the best government we can manage.
Does the whole issue raise questions over, you know, given the situation where every Tynwald member had a government post of one kind or another, does it raise questions about how alternative views can be articulated, questions of you know, dissent and opposition, which is healthy in a democracy? Yes,
I'm not in any way opposed to any dissent and opposition. You know, the more our activities are scrutinised, the healthier it is for government. That isn't the problem at all. I've made it very clear on day one that I would do my best to accommodate any member who wanted to work as a member of government, not just in the Council of Ministers, but as a departmental member. I've kept that promise. I've made positions available for every member, every backbencher who wanted to make a constructive role. That offer will still be there. It'll still be there for Mr. Karran and the Liberal Vannan party. The door isn't closed to them in that respect. But for the time being, this relationship with education has ended.
Where does that leave the future then of preschool education? Because that is a decision that Mr. Karran took almost personally. There were ministers who were unhappy about it, although the Council of Ministers had backed it for collective responsibility. You now face having a new education minister. Does that mean that the policy could still be changed?
No, the decision's been made. The new process is underway. The budgetary provision is in place, and it will continue as before.
There's no possibility of a rethink on that, no matter who is appointed?
The policy for this year has been set, and the budgets obviously will be considered in due course for next year, and it will be for the new department to decide what its priorities are.
Would you consider taking Peter on again as a minister?
I'm not ruling anything out for the future. Mr. Karran was starting to grow into the role. I think he'd earned the respect of his Council of Ministers colleagues. And I think there will be some regret around the table that he's left. But it was his decision, not mine, not the Council of Ministers. And he recognises that he has rules to abide by like everybody else. And at this point he's decided he wants to step outside it. If things were to change in the future, then clearly I would have to review the position.
Would it be difficult to find somebody who'd agree to be a minister under these conditions? We've already seen some politically very unpopular decisions being taken. You're promising more of those in the future. If I were a member being offered a ministerial post, I'd be worried that, in fact, I'd be signing my own death warrant at the next election, in effect.
That depends entirely on your motivation for becoming a member of government. If you are simply standing for election to pursue your own political career, in some long terms, then that's one thing. If you're coming in specifically to help the Isle of Man to work with us to get through these very difficult times, to make tough decisions, to protect the public services and employment levels and the economy for the future, then I think there will be members willing to step up to the plate and work with us. It depends entirely on your priorities, whether you protect your career or you work for the Isle of Man. I think the overwhelming demand of the people on the island at the moment is that we have a government and a Council of Ministers committed to working in the best interest of the Isle of Man, and we have to put our own personal interest to one side at this time.